In this video, I want to talk about the concept of spiritual bypassing because this is a concept that I was operating within for many years without realizing it, and it was definitely a barrier to my growth and my healing. So spiritual bypassing involves misusing or misapplying spiritual teachings to our circumstances in order to avoid facing discomfort, usually on a subconscious level, but sometimes consciously as well. It can also be a means by which our purest, most authentic self remains suppressed or hidden in the shadow. So spiritual bypassing within different communities could look like, well, God is good, or everything is in God's hands, or God doesn't give anyone more than they can handle. Those sorts of phrases that kind of gloss over are what we're talking about. It could also mean like taking a spiritual concept such as detachment as a means by which we sort of perpetuate an apathetic, disconnected, numb sort of existence versus being fully present and fully welcoming of sort of the wholeness of our experiences. To give you like a really practical, real world example from my own life, we heard a lot during our infant loss years this sort of concept of God doesn't give you more than you can handle. First of all, this is like on the one hand problematic because it's not actually in the spiritual text that's being referenced, but on the other hand, the problem with adopting this concept was that there actually were many moments in which I was in over my head, where I was in a space of genuine need, but I sort of like convinced myself because of all of these types of phrases that like I can do this, I can just like power through. And in reality, like a lot of times in life we're going through things that we actually shouldn't be handling like completely by ourselves. Like some things are beyond what we can handle ourselves. We have suicide rates that tell us as much, and phrases that gloss over experiences like this are just really harmful. For me, this kind of encouraged me to suppress like the depths of both my needs, like my actual needs, as well as my feelings. And it took me a long time to realize that yes, I was totally bypassing myself, but I was also receiving a lot of this bypassing language within the communities that I was a part of. Adopting a spiritual truth that is misaligned with how you actually feel, or that denies your current experience or the experience of someone else, is bypassing because it aims to jump to a conclusion or an intellectual understanding instead of engaging in the necessary labor that's required to foster real emotional healing. Phrases like let go and let God, or just rise above your feelings, good vibes only, or just have faith. These are all examples of very bypassing phrases. It's not that there's like no truth to be found within some of these concepts. It's more that like we can't apply them honestly when we refuse to accept how we actually are feeling underneath the surface. Some signs that you might be engaging in spiritual bypassing are avoiding uncomfortable feelings, pretending things are fine when they aren't, overemphasizing positivity, being detached or unaffected, using spiritual practices to hide or mask your true self, avoiding conflict under the guise of keeping the peace, and we could go on and on and on, but you get the general idea. Emotional labor is required to move through unhealed pain. There just is no way around it. We don't want to ignore reality. We don't want to gloss over our existence and our experience. The opposite of bypassing is radical acceptance. And it is through radical acceptance that we become our authentic selves. Breaking free from spiritual bypassing can look like accepting reality as it currently is and not as you hope it to be. Feeling all of your emotions, all of your feelings without judgment and without shame. Choosing not to escape into distraction as a means of avoidance, like as a pattern. Taking responsible action and whatever steps are necessary to fully deal with the experiences at hand. Honoring the humanness in both self and others, as well as advocating for yourself and for your actual needs. The good news is that spiritual bypassing doesn't work when it comes to holistic healing. Eventually, self-honesty has to enter the picture, and when it does, we can be reminded that all experiences are teachers and all feelings are valuable. Sorrow and sadness and grief and disappointment are just as valuable as love and peace and bliss and harmony and contentment. Like, they all matter. If you are interested in diving deeper on this topic on your own, here are 4 journal prompts that I like to use to reflect on if I'm bypassing myself or others. These things are typically like behavioral patterns, so it's not something that like, oh, now I'm aware of spiritual bypassing and I'm not gonna do it anymore. You have to kind of reprogram your mind to not bypass yourself, and it can take time. So 1, Reflect on a time that you have used a positive affirmation or spiritual concept to avoid facing a difficult emotion. Describe a time when you felt pressured to appear in a manner that did not align with how you were feeling. Describe a time when you have prioritized keeping the peace versus addressing a persistent problem. How do you feel about the idea of being present if you are currently experiencing something challenging? The goal is increased awareness of our patterns so that we can understand ourselves more fully. And understanding ourselves more fully is one important catalyst to more growth and more healing and more compassion towards yourself and other people. I hope this helps, and thank you so much for watching. I hope that you're taking good care of yourself right now. And we are working on a video coming up soon of like a guide of how we sit with mushrooms, and I'm really excited about it. We were able to share our like first big harvest with 15 people, which is like blowing my mind because we haven't really talked about it very much like anywhere publicly, just more word of mouth, and like I think I posted about it one time on Instagram. So I know that there are a lot of people just in my personal life who are new to them and kind of want to know like walk me through this, like what do I do? So stick around for that, and I hope you're doing well.